And I have a personal question here, about queen rearing. So a lot of new beekeepers or beekeepers who are thinking about start grafting and raising queens, I was going to ask you is what kind of queen rearing method you use? How do you raise your queens, basically?
Well, basically, no matter how you raise your cells or get your cells started, the theory is always the same. Any strong unit that's full of young bees and is queenless will raise cells and do a good job of it. Many people start by just creating a 5 frame nuke box where they shake in a bunch of young bees and give it some larvae after it's been queenless for a day, and they grow them just fine with the right nutrition and everything. We use a combination cell starter finisher. In other words, we use a double deep colony to both start the cells and then finish the cells. We'll take one of our boxes and make it completely queenless and put most of the bees in there, and very little open brood and lots of food, and we feed it and we make sure it's got pollen right where the side where the grafted cells are going to go. We'll leave it queenless overnight and put the grafts in the next day, and then we'll have a double screen board on the top of that, and we'll place the queen just temporarily on top. We shake a lot of the bees off the existing brood and leave it in the top box. Because of the heat coming through the double screen, they don't need as many bees to tend the brood up above, and we change the entrance direction to the double screen to the rear so that even the field force is going home. And one of the big keys to making good cells is to start with a very overcrowded unit. Overcrowding is really important for building, quantities of quality cells. And then after they've been working on those cells for just a day or perhaps two, then we reverse the boxes. We put the queen back downstairs on the whole box. Just take the whole box and put it down on the bottom board. Take away the double screen board, put an excluder in the middle, and then put the cell starter box, which had been on the bottom, above the excluder. And surprisingly enough, the colonies almost always do a really good job of finishing the cells. And it's an interesting thing that they start them under the emergency cell building impulse, because they're completely queenless, and they don't even swarm often if you have these cells up above. So I have to say that they're finishing them under the supersedure impulse. Once those cells are above the excluder, they go ahead and finish them, and in many cases make no effort to swarm. So it's interesting. It works good. I learned it from Chris Werner, Indian Summer Honey Farms in Florida. He learned it from some Romanian beekeepers that were experts at making queens. And with that method, you only need a few good colonies. If you're going to rear queens, you really only need one good double deep colony to rear queens doing that. And then when you're all done 2 weeks later and you harvest the cells, you just pull the excluder out and the colony goes back to normal. You haven't lost the colony. There's a little bit of work there, a little bit of manipulation, but you haven't lost the colony. In a week or two, it recovers, and it's just like the rest. And our cell building yard has 24 colonies in it. And in the spring, we use 5 or 6 colonies each week to build cells. Right now, we're only using 3. And then, so in the spring, if we're doing 6, every 4 weeks, we're colonies on a 4-week cycle. It's making cells for 2 weeks, and then it's a normal colony for 2 weeks before it gets used again for building cells. And it works really good for us. And if anybody's interested in that, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is simply my name, Bob Binnie at Blue Ridge Honey Company. And the title of the video where we explain that in depth is called How We Produce Queens. It's actually a good video. It's got several 100,000 views. People think it's a pretty good queen rearing video. I'm not trying to sell it, but I think it's pretty good. I recommend it.